Today's lesson will show you how to insert a vector image into a program called Mastercam. You will also learn how to scale and size the image and create the outline of the part you wish to make it on. On your desktop, you should see a shortcut that allows you to left-click and open the program. If you do not have this, you can still open the program by going down to the Start menu, All Programs, Mastercam, and left-click once again on the application. The first time you load this, it'll probably take about 30 seconds. You'll also get a customer feedback survey window that pops up. Just select No Thank You and click OK. This is the standard interface that you see when you open up Mastercam. The blue area here indicates the graphic area where you'll be doing your drawing. This square here in the middle is called the origin and refers to the X0, Y0, Z0 of the program, and everything you draw in here is referenced from that point. So it becomes like an anchor. Over here on the left is the operations manager. It shows you where the tool paths are that you create as you build your part. Up along the top is a menu bar with standard menus. Below that are some toolbars, and below that is a ribbon bar. The ribbon bar is directly related to whatever tool you have active. So if I click on the rectangle tool, you'll see my ribbon bar becomes active with inputs related to making a rectangle. If I change tools, so does my tool or my ribbon bar. It just improves the functionality of whatever tool you have open, so be aware that it changes with each tool. Let's go ahead and bring in that vector file we saved in an earlier lesson. Let's go over to File, Open, and by default Mastercam is looking for a .mcx file, a Mastercam file. But we haven't created a Mastercam file yet, and even if we were to navigate our way to wherever we saved it, we wouldn't find it. We have to tell Mastercam to look for an Illustrator file, and you can see the list of all the different files that Mastercam accepts and works with. We need to look for an AI. .ai, that's hit right there. Now we should be able to navigate our way to wherever we saved it previously and select it. You don't have to select this preview here, but if you do and you see a reference image of your logo, it's a good sign that you've followed all the other instructions correctly and everything will work well for you in the next couple of steps. I'm just going to left click on the open box here. Don't worry about that little alert. The resource file was not set up. I'm just going to click OK. This is now your geometry file, and it's been inserted from Illustrator into Mastercam. Mastercam refers to it now as geometry, and if for whatever reason yours didn't open up when you did this, it's probably because you forgot to downsave it to Illustrator version 8 in the saving process in the previous lesson. You might have to go back and fix that if you're not at this step with us right now. Assuming you did it correctly, like I've done here, because I followed the instructions, let's carry on. This is a good time to delete any parts of your image that you don't need. For example, this outline I don't need. So you'll notice when I move the mouse over to it, it highlights. All I need to do is left click on it and it turns yellow. That means it's selected. I'm just going to move up here to the delete entities and left click and get rid of that. I'm also going to get rid of this little bit of writing down here at the bottom. Not even sure what that says, but I know I don't need to engrave it. So I'm going to delete that as well. Delete. I could have also gone over here and hit the delete option here, or I could have just as easy hit the keyboard or the delete button on the keyboard. This is your geometry, and it is scalable. It's scalable to any size with no loss of resolution. But before we scale it, we need to know the size or the width and height of the material that we're going to cut on. This decision is normally left to the designer, which is you. But for this first exercise, I've chosen the size for you and have pre-cut wood pieces to 7 inches wide by 8 inches in height. In subsequent exercises, you'll be able to choose your own, but I needed to pre-cut some stuff, so we're going to use 7 by 8 for this activity. So, in order to create this outline, I'm going to go up to the menu here and left-click on Create, left-click on Rectangle. My ribbon bar for the rectangle is now selected, and you'll see I'm getting a prompt that it wants the first corner of my rectangle. Well, the first corner is always the 0, 0, 0, the reference, right? So I'm just going to left click here, and you'll see now that my mouse is attached to a dotted window that I can change the shape of. I'm just going to left click and select it. I want to make sure though that I change my width of my rectangle to 7 inches and my height to 8 inches. And click the OK check mark. This is now your piece of wood, and this is the outline of your piece of wood. And just before we scale the image, we need to create a boundary that this image doesn't kind of exceed. So I'm just going to move this out of the way temporarily. Click OK. All right, so we need to create an offset boundary or a set of parallel lines just on the inside here that we make sure we keep our image away from. How we do that is we're going to go up to the X-Form menu, left click, and we're going to offset a contour. You will notice on the left-hand side here a window opens up, and it's wanting us to indicate which contour it wants to offset. And by default, it's going to use the chain function, and I'm just going to left click right here. You'll notice that the whole rectangle turned yellow when I did that. That's because that rectangle is a closed entity, and I'm going to left click on it. You'll notice when I clicked on that checkbox, another window opened up, and it automatically placed a boundary on the outside of my wood. Well, that's not exactly where I wanted it, but over here I can change the direction of that to go inside, and I can also manipulate the distance that I'm offsetting this boundary. So I can either use the arrows to do that, or I can just type in 0.25 and hit enter. This is now the boundary that my image, this purple line here, is now the boundary that my image will not exceed. The reason for that is this piece of wood needs to be clamped on the router bed, and my clamps take up a little bit of space here. So if I make sure to keep my image within this area, it won't interfere with any of the clamps. So it's now time to scale this image. So what do? We go to X-Form, scale. Again, we get the prompt, what do you want to scale? And I'm just going to select it. And you'll notice here, if I'm not accurate with what I select, you'll notice only a couple of things turn yellow. Well, those are the only things that are going to change scale. We need to make sure if we want everything to scale, we need to close it in the box. And when everything's yellow, that's good. Now we're just going to left click up on end selection. I could also just press the enter key. When I do that, a new window opens up. That's a scale window. And you can see here I can use the arrow here to either scale down or scale up my image. You'll notice that the original is still left in place. If I don't need the original, I can toggle this little button right here, and now the original is gone, and I can just work with whichever size I want. This is a bit trial and error, so don't get frustrated. You might have to do it more than once. I'm just going to guess and go, I'm going to try that. I'm going to left click on the OK button, and now all we have to do is place this inside our piece of wood. How we do that is we go back up to X-Form. We're going to drag. We're getting the prompt. What do we want to drag? Well, we want to drag a box around everything here. Left click on this little end selection or press the enter key. And now Mastercam is just waiting for us to click and drag it into position. If you want to be more accurate, you can use the scroll ball to zoom in so you can see it better. And make sure it doesn't hit the boundary. And just center it. There we go. That's pretty good. And when you're happy with that, click OK. This is now complete. All we need to do now is hit File, Save. And when we save it now, it will have a .mcx file or a .mcx extension on it because it is a Mastercam file. So I'm just going to go ahead and save it. And just to summarize, we have now created Mastercam geometry. We have scaled it to a specific size and created the size constraints of the material it will be cut on. This process can be used every time you use Mastercam, regardless of what size of image you bring in. Well done.